Since you like him so much, Amaka, take him.
Zara pulled the engagement ring from her finger and dropped it on the table. The tiny sound cut through the room. Nobody moved. Tayo stood near the doorway in his cobalt blue work shirt, one sleeve still marked with grease from the site he had rushed from. Zara looked at him as though those stains were proof that marrying him would ruin her life. "I cannot spend my future struggling beside a man who is satisfied with this," she said. Amaka shot to her feet. "He works hard. Since when did honest work become something to be ashamed of?" Zara laughed bitterly. "Then marry him yourself." Tayo looked at the two sisters. No shouting, no begging. Then he said quietly, "A person is not something you hand over when you think he has lost value." And he walked out. Zara believed she had just escaped a poor man with no future. She had no idea that the man leaving her family's house quietly controlled a fortune bigger than anything she had ever dreamed of touching. But when the truth finally came out, money would not be the most painful thing she discovered. So don't miss this story, because the choice Zara made tonight would come back in a way nobody in that room was prepared for. Before we continue, tell us in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is there right now. And if you enjoy powerful stories about dignity, choices, and consequences, subscribe to the channel. Now listen carefully, because Zara had already thrown away the ring. She just didn't understand what else she had thrown away. The front door clicked shut behind Tayo. For several seconds, the only sound in the sitting room was the generator outside, coughing through a bad patch of fuel. Mrs. Okoro stared at the ring on the table. It lay beside a plate of untouched fried plantain, small and bright under the ceiling light. "Zara," she said at last. Her voice was low. That was usually more dangerous than when she shouted. Zara pushed her chair back. "Mummy, please. I don't want another lecture. You ended your engagement in my sitting room. I ended something that was already going nowhere. You invited us here to discuss wedding arrangements, and I changed my mind." Amaka was still standing. She had not touched her food. The burnt orange blouse she wore suddenly felt too warm around her neck. "Don't bring me into this," she said. Zara turned on her. "You brought yourself into it. I defended him because what you said was insulting. You always defend everybody. That is your problem." "No. My problem is that you just spoke about a human being as if he were a handbag you no longer wanted." Mrs. Okoro shut her eyes briefly. Enough. But Zara had reached that place where anger becomes useful, because it keeps shame from getting too close. She pointed toward the door. "He came here late. Again. In a dirty work shirt. Again. We have been planning a wedding, and he still behaves as if climbing under machines is a life plan." "He is an engineer," Amaka said. "He runs a small maintenance outfit, and I am tired of pretending that ambition does not matter." Amaka gave a short laugh with no humor in it. "You mean appearance matters. I mean stability matters. Tayo has never asked you for money." "That is not the point. Then what is?" Zara opened her mouth. Nothing came. Not because there was no answer. There were too many answers, and most of them sounded uglier when spoken aloud. The engagement had begun to embarrass her long before it ended. Not Tayo himself, not at first. She had loved the way he listened, loved that he never tried to win arguments by becoming louder, loved the absurd care he gave broken things, a fan, a hinge, a leaking tap in her mother's kitchen. Once, on a Sunday afternoon, he had spent nearly 2 hours repairing a neighbor's old freezer because the woman sold drinks from it and could not afford a new compressor. Back then, Zara had called him kind. Later, she began calling the same behavior small-minded. The shift had been quiet. A colleague got engaged to a banker and posted photographs from a rooftop restaurant in Dubai. Another moved into a new duplex in Lekki. One of Zara's clients arrived for a planning meeting in a vehicle that cost more than Mrs. Okoro's house. People asked Zara what Tayo did. "He's an engineer," she would say. "What company?" "He has his own firm." "Oh, nice. Big firm?" And there it was. That small pause. That measuring glance. Zara had started answering too quickly. "He likes field work," as though apologizing for him. Tayo noticed. He had to. He simply never challenged her directly. That silence made her angrier, too. "You people can think whatever you like," Zara said now. "I know what I want from my life." Mrs. Okoro looked at her daughter for a long moment. Wanting comfort is not a crime. Zara's shoulders eased a fraction. Then her mother continued, "But contempt is expensive. Be careful what you buy with it." Zara grabbed her handbag from the sofa. "I am not doing this tonight." She left the room, heels sharp against the tiled floor. Amaka waited until she heard the bedroom door close upstairs. Then she picked up the ring. It felt heavier than it looked. Mrs. Okoro watched her. "Leave it there. If the house help clears this table in the morning, she may throw it away with the napkins. Maybe that is what your sister wants." No. Tomorrow she will want somebody to blame for losing it. That made Mrs. Okoro almost smile. Almost. Amaka placed the ring inside an empty teacup and covered it with the saucer. "Please don't call Tayo tonight," her mother said. Amaka frowned. "Why would I?" "To explain. To apologize. You like repairing what other people break." Amaka looked at the covered cup. "Mummy, I repair hems, not adults." She picked up her bag and left. Outside, the night air was thick and damp. A car horn sounded from the road. Somewhere beyond the wall, a woman was bargaining loudly with a food seller who had already decided her last price was truly her last price. Amaka stood near the gate and checked her phone. No message from Tayo. She was relieved, then annoyed with herself for being relieved. The entire scene had humiliated him. It had humiliated her too, but differently. Zara's words had placed a dirty suggestion in the room, as if Amaka had been waiting quietly for her sister's fiancé to become available. She had not. Tayo had always been Tayo, her sister's man. Off limits. That was the whole category. She ordered a ride home and did not look at her phone again until morning. Tayo, meanwhile, drove only 6 streets before pulling over. He did not need to pull over. He was not shaking. He could see perfectly well. But he had spent years learning that the worst decisions often arrive disguised as the need to do something immediately. Call her. Go back. Explain. Reveal everything. Make her regret it. That last thought disgusted him enough to make him switch off the engine. He sat in the dark cab of his pickup and looked at his hands. There was grease along the base of his thumb. Zara had looked at that grease more than she had looked at his face. His phone vibrated. "Uncle, say." Tayo watched it ring out. A second call came. He answered. "You are still coming tomorrow morning?" Sei asked, without greeting. Tayo leaned his head against the seat. "For what?" A pause. "The board review. The thing we have been discussing for 2 weeks." "Yes, I remember. You sound tired." "I am tired. Sight? And other things." Sei was not a man who enjoyed fishing for personal information. If you wanted him to know something, you told him. If you did not, he moved on. 10 o'clock, he said. "Do not come in those boots." Tayo looked down at the safety boots Zara hated. "I'll wear the boots just for you." "Then I will instruct security not to let you upstairs." That pulled a breath of laughter from him. "Good night, Uncle." He ended the call. For one reckless second, he imagined Zara's face if she had heard it. Board review, security, upstairs, Meridian crest. He could have driven back and changed the entire balance of the room with 6 sentences. "My small maintenance outfit is mine, because I wanted something of my own. The company you think I work beneath belongs mostly to my family. The shares my mother left me are worth billions. I am not poor. You were wrong." He started the engine instead, because even in anger, Tayo understood something Zara did not. Money could change a room very quickly. It could not make a cruel sentence unsaid. 3 days later, Zara texted Amaka, "Where is my ring?" Amaka was standing at her cutting table in the back of her workshop, chalk between 2 fingers, trying to rescue 6 meters of fabric from a junior tailor who had measured twice and still somehow invented a 3rd number. She read the message. Then she laughed once. "Of course, in Mummy's teacup, blue flower pattern, covered with saucer." Zara replied almost immediately. "You moved it?" "Yes." "Why?" "Because somebody could have thrown it away." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "Thanks." Amaka put the phone down. The young woman beside her cleared her throat. Madam, should I cut? No, why? Because if you cut that line, we will be sowing regret. The girl grinned. Amaka took the measuring tape from her and showed her where the error began. That was how Amaka preferred problems. Cloth told the truth if you measured it properly. People were harder. By Friday, the family had divided itself into camps nobody officially admitted existed. 2 aunties called Zara to tell her she had been brave not to settle. A cousin sent Amaka a voice note asking whether the strange thing Zara had said meant what everybody thought it meant. Amaka deleted it halfway through. Mrs. Okoro called both daughters separately and ordered them not to turn private embarrassment into family entertainment. Tayo said nothing. That silence irritated Zara more than any angry message could have. She had expected at least one attempt, an apology, a promise to change, maybe a long speech about love. Instead, an email arrived from the wedding venue confirming that the booking had been cancelled by mutual agreement and that the refundable portion of Tayo's payment would be returned to him directly. The photographer sent a similar message, then the caterer. No drama, no threat. Tayo simply began unbuilding the wedding, piece by piece. Zara sat at her desk at work reading the 3rd cancellation email when her colleague leaned over the partition. You okay? Fine. You look like you want to fight Outlook. Zara minimized the message. Dline. Her colleague nodded toward the conference room. Then save your energy. Meridian Crest shortlist is coming next week. Zara's mood shifted despite herself. That soon? That's what I heard. Meridian Crest was the kind of account people mentioned without needing to explain why it mattered. The group had stakes in logistics, infrastructure, industrial property, energy services, and private transport operations across several West African markets. It rarely used one agency for long. Winning a major event and stakeholder management contract could move an agency from respected to impossible to ignore. Zara had spent 6 months building relationships around the opportunity. This was the life she understood. Pitch decks, budgets, rooms where people decided things, not grease under fingernails, not waiting for a small business to become a medium one, not hoping love would somehow pay school fees, mortgage payments, hospital bills, and all the other things people liked to call unromantic until they could not afford them. She opened the Meridian folder. Work steadied her, numbers behaved, status could be built, and if there was a small, mean part of her that wanted the account because it would prove something about leaving Tayo, she did not examine it closely. Across the city, Amaka was having a different argument. Not with Zara, with a fuse box. At 4:30 that afternoon, 3 sewing machines stopped at once. Then the pressing iron died. Then the standing fan made a sound like somebody dragging a spoon through a metal bowl and went quiet. Every woman in the workshop looked at Amaka. She looked at the ceiling. Wonderful, one of the trainees laughed. Madam, maybe Nipa has carried light. The neighbor's fan is moving. Everybody turned toward the open side window. The salon next door was still blasting music. Amaka closed her eyes. Even worse. The workshop had grown slowly over 4 years. At first it was only Amaka, one borrowed industrial machine, and a narrow rented room that trapped heat like punishment. Now she had 2 proper rooms, 6 machines, a pressing station, 3 paid workers and 4 trainees on rotating schedules. It was not glamorous. It was hers, and every equipment failure carried a number behind it. Lost hours, delayed orders. Customers who did not care that electricity had opinions. She called the electrician who usually helped them. He was in Ikorodu and could not come until the next day. Can you recommend somebody? She asked. He gave her a number. She called. A man answered. Good afternoon, Balogun Technical Services. Amaka froze. She looked at the phone. Of course, of all the engineering outfits in Lagos. Hello, the man said. Yes, sorry. I need somebody to look at a fault in my workshop. Location. She gave it. Nature of fault, she explained. Could be distribution. Could be load imbalance. We have somebody around Yaba later. Somebody? Yes, ma, not Tayo. Good. Please send him. She ended the call and put the phone face down. One trainee watched her carefully. What? Amaka asked. Nothing. Your face is saying plenty. The girl bent over her fabric. My face is minding its business. Let it continue. Amaka went back to work. She did not yet know that the repair call would be the first small thread pulling Tayo back into her life. And this time, nobody would be allowed to hand anybody over. The technician who arrived was not Tayo. Amaka had prepared herself so thoroughly not to react to Tayo that she almost laughed when a stocky man in a grey polo shirt walked through the door carrying a meter and a tool bag. "Good evening, madam." Balogun Technical. "Thank you for coming." He inspected the board, asked what machines had been running, then requested that everybody step away from the sockets. 10 minutes later, he called Tayo. Amaka knew because she heard his side of the conversation. "Yes, boss. The cable size is not matching the added load. Yes, I saw that. No, I won't bridge it, I know." He ended the call and looked at her. "You added 2 machines recently?" "Last month. The old line is carrying more than it should. Somebody can make it work tonight, but I won't advise it. We need to separate the load properly." "How long?" "If we get the materials early, tomorrow afternoon, and tonight, use only 2 machines. No pressing iron on that line." Amaka exhaled. "Fine." He gave her an estimate that hurt without being impossible. She approved it. The next morning, the technician returned with another man. They worked until after lunch. Tayo did not come. That should have been the end of it. Instead, at 3 o'clock, Amaka received a short message. "I saw the job sheet. The old panel should have been flagged when we checked your place last month. We missed it. I've removed the inspection charge. You're paying only materials and labor for the upgrade." She stared at the screen, then typed, "You don't have to do that because of what happened with Zara." His reply came 2 minutes later. "I'm doing it because my company inspected the panel and missed something." "Those are different matters." Amaka read it again. There was no sad face. No question about Zara, no attempt to continue the conversation. She wrote, "Fair, thank you, that was all." Still, the exchange stayed with her. Not because it was romantic, because it was clean. Tayo had found a problem his company partly owned, corrected it, and refused to turn accountability into a favor. Amaka liked clean things. Her family was not giving her many of them. The following Sunday, Zara came to their mother's house wearing a green blouse and the expression of someone determined to look rested. She was not rested, Mrs. Okoro served rice and stew, then made the mistake of asking whether both daughters had been sleeping well. "I sleep very well," Zara said. Amaka spooned rice onto her plate. "Congratulations." Zara looked at her. "What is that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. You said you sleep well. I congratulated you." "Amaka, mummy, please tell her to eat," Zara said. Mrs. Okoro put down the serving spoon. "I have discovered that when I tell either of you anything these days, you hear only the part that helps your argument." Amaka smiled despite herself. Zara did not. After lunch, their mother went to the kitchen. Zara followed Amaka onto the small back veranda. "Did Tayo call you?" There it was. Amaka leaned against the railing. "His company repaired something at my workshop." Zara blinked. "You called him?" "I called an electrician who gave me a number. I didn't know it was his company until they answered." "And he came?" Note Zara folded her arms. "But he contacted you. About the invoice." "Amaka, don't be naive." Amaka looked at her sister properly. "What exactly are you asking me?" Zara's jaw tightened. "I'm saying I know men. You know one man you were engaged to, apparently not very well. That is not funny. I'm not joking." Zara stepped closer. "Whatever he is doing, do not let him use you to get at me." Amaka almost answered immediately. Then she stopped. Some sentences deserve to be inspected before being returned. "Do you hear yourself?" she asked. "He was supposed to marry me. Was. It has been less than a month. Yes. And whose decision was that?" Zara looked away. Amaka continued. "You are talking as if Tayo and I have started something. We have not. But even if one day we did, you would still not get to describe him as your property." "I never said property. You said I should take him." "I was angry." "You keep saying that as if anger wrote the sentence by itself." Zara's face hardened. "You always make everything sound simple." "No, you make your choices sound like weather, as if they just happened around you." The kitchen door opened. Mrs. Okoro stepped out, holding 2 empty bowls. Both sisters became quiet. Their mother looked from one to the other. I am too old for this kind of silence. If you're fighting, at least let me know whether to bring a chair. Amaka took one of the bowls from her. We are not fighting. Zara gave a short laugh. Of course not. She picked up her handbag and left 10 minutes later. On her way home, Zara drove past the secondary school she and Amaka had attended. She had not planned to. Traffic diverted her from the main road. For a moment she was 16 again, standing outside the bursar's office, while her mother spoke in a low voice to a clerk. The fees had been late. Again. A girl from Zara's class had walked past and pretended not to look. That was the part Zara remembered most. Pretended not to look. Pity had always felt worse to Zara than hunger. Their father had been alive then, but his business was already collapsing. Contracts failed. Debts piled up. He became a man who left the house early and returned late because being absent was easier than being unable. One afternoon, Zara came home and found 2 men carrying away the television. Her mother said they were replacing it. They were not. It had been sold. Years later, after their father died, Zara learned how much debt remained. She also learned something else, though nobody taught it to her directly. Money could disappear. Respect could disappear with it. So she built herself carefully, a good degree, a good wardrobe, a polished voice. No unpaid bills if she could help it. No one seeing panic before she had already found a solution. When she met Tayo, she thought his calm meant security. Later she mistook his simplicity for lack. The memory did not make her turn the car around and apologize. People rarely become wiser at the exact moment a story needs them to. Zara only gripped the steering wheel tighter and told herself she had done what she needed to do. At work, that belief was rewarded. Her agency made the Meridian Crest shortlist. The managing director called the pitch team into the conference room and announced it with both palms on the table. We are one of 4. Someone clapped. Someone else whispered, finally. Zara did neither. She was already thinking about the next move. The account covered 3 stakeholder events, an executive retreat, a supplier forum, and a public-facing industry program over 12 months. It was the kind of brief that could become 3 other briefs if handled well. We need discipline, the managing director said. No unnecessary theater. Meridian people hate waste dressed as creativity. Zara wrote the phrase down. No unnecessary theater. She liked it. Then the director added, they are very operations-driven. We need somebody who can speak logistics, not only decor. Zara raised her hand slightly. I'll rebuild the execution section. I expected you to. That small approval warmed her more than she wanted to admit. For the next 2 weeks, Zara worked late. At the same time, Amaka's workshop became louder. The electrical upgrade held. 2 new machines ran without tripping anything. Orders moved faster. One of the trainees, a quiet young mother who used to take 2 buses and a bike to reach the workshop, began arriving early enough to practice buttonholes before the others came. Amaka noticed. She noticed everything in the workshop, not because she was naturally patient, because mistakes cost cloth, and cloth cost money. One Tuesday afternoon, a community center coordinator visited. She had heard that Amaka trained women who could not afford formal fashion school fees. We are trying to restart a skills program, the coordinator explained. Not free forever. Just subsidized for the first batch. Sewing, basic repairs, small business records. Amaka listened. How many people? Maybe 20. My space cannot take 20. We have a hall. Power? The coordinator made a face. Sometimes. Amaka laughed. That means no. We have an old generator. That means also no. They both laughed. Then the coordinator said, can you inspect the space and tell us what would actually be needed? Amaka agreed. The hall was better than expected and worse than promised. There were windows. There were tables. There were sockets, though 2 looked as if nobody should trust them with anything more powerful than a phone charger. Amaka walked around with a notebook. Machines. Lighting. Ventilation. Lockable storage. Power. That last word led her, reluctantly, back to Balogun Technical. She called the office instead of Tayo directly. 2 days later, he arrived at the community center himself. Amaka was standing on a plastic chair, trying to measure the width of a window when she heard his voice behind her. If you fall, I'm not writing a report that says the client ignored basic safety. She looked over her shoulder. Tayo stood in the doorway wearing the same cobalt work shirt, clean this time and dark trousers. He carried a clipboard. You people sent the owner? I was nearby. That sounds suspiciously convenient. It is Lagos. Nothing is nearby. I lied. She laughed before she could stop herself. Then she climbed down. For half an hour they walked the space together. Tayo tested outlets, looked at the generator, asked how many industrial machines she planned to run, and whether irons would operate at the same time. Amaka answered. He did not simplify his explanation for her. He also did not bury her in jargon. If they want 10 machines here eventually, they should plan for 10 now, even if they begin with 4. Otherwise, they will pay twice. Can they phase the work? Yes, wiring first, equipment later. What is the cheapest safe version? He looked at her. Those are 2 different questions. Fine. What is the cheapest version you would allow somebody you like to use? That one I can answer. They spent another 20 minutes reducing the plan without reducing the safety margin. The coordinator watched them from the doorway. You two work well together. Amaka and Tayo answered at the same time. It's work. The coordinator raised both hands. I said nothing. After she left, Amaka pretended to study her notes. Tayo pretended to study the socket beside him. The pretense became ridiculous. Amaka broke first. Are you okay? Tayo leaned against the wall. Yes. That answer is too fast. He considered it. I am functioning. Better. And you? I am also functioning. So we are both machines now. Machines are easier. That I believe. Silence settled, but it was not uncomfortable. Then Tayo said, I want to make something clear. Amaka's stomach tightened. He continued. I am not using this project to stay close to your family. Good. And I am not trying to make Zara jealous. Good. That was a very quick answer. I have been asked to carry enough nonsense on my head already. I don't want extra. He nodded. Fair. She closed her notebook. And I want to make something clear too. I'm listening. If you and I become friends, that is all it is. I will not be anybody's rebound. I will not wake up one morning and discover that I was useful. Because I happened to be nearby when your engagement ended. Tayo did not defend himself against an accusation she had not made. He just said, You won't. How do you know? Because I am not ready for anything else. That answer surprised her. It also relieved her. Good. Again with the quick good. This one was sincere. He smiled. They left the community center separately. Over the next month, a friendship arrived without asking permission. Not through candlelit dinners, through invoices, through the skills program, through messages such as, the supplier says the sockets will come Friday. And tell them not to buy that generator. I checked the model. It will punish everybody, and once, your trainee left a measuring tape in my toolbox. Amaka replied. Keep it. Maybe engineers will finally learn accurate measurements. Tayo sent back. We build bridges, she answered. And still call 38 centimeters, about 40. He did not speak to her about Zara. Amaka respected that more than she expected. Zara, however, heard enough through their mother to know Tayo's name had not disappeared completely. One evening, Mrs. Okoro mentioned the community program while helping Zara fold takeaway containers after dinner. Amaka is doing well with that training place. Tayo's company helped them with the electrical work. Zara stopped folding. Again, Mrs. Okoro looked up. What do you mean again? Nothing. You asked a question. Mummy, please. Mrs. Okoro resumed folding. After a moment, Zara said, Do you think it is appropriate? What? For him to be around her so much. Her mother placed one container inside another. I think when you release something, you should remove your hand from it. Zara stared at her. So everybody has decided I am the villain. No, you are my daughter. That is not an answer. It is the only answer that matters to me. But being my daughter will not make me lie to you. Zara pushed the containers aside. I ended a relationship. People do that every day. Yes. So why is everybody acting as if I committed a crime? Because you are still trying to control what happens after the ending you chose. Zara stood. This family is unbelievable. Mrs. Okoro looked at the half-folded stack. Take those containers before you go. Zara almost laughed. That was her mother. She could dismantle your argument and still make sure you took food home. Zara carried the containers to her car. But later, alone in her apartment, she opened Tayo's contact. His photograph was still there. She stared at it. Then she closed the phone without calling. What stopped her was not pride alone. It was certainty. She still believed she had made the right decision. What she did not know was that certainty had an expiry date. The Meridian Crest pitch consumed Zara's office. For 2 weeks, foam boards leaned against walls. Budget sheets traveled back and forth with red comments. Someone changed the proposed stage design so many times that the designer began naming the versions after Nigerian football scores instead of numbers. Zara thrived in it. Pressure made her precise. She could walk into a room where 5 people were speaking at once and pull the actual problem out of the noise. The client did not ask for a bigger stage. She told the team one afternoon. They asked for better movement between sessions. Stop decorating the wrong problem. Her managing director looked at her over his glasses. That is why you are leading the room on presentation day. Zara sat a little straighter. Thank you. If we win this, we will talk about your next position. There it was. The sentence she had been working toward for 3 years. Not a promise. Close enough to make sleep difficult. That night, she stayed in the office until after 9, revising the logistics plan. She removed 2 expensive ideas she had originally fought for and expanded the supplier arrival schedule. No unnecessary theater. She had learned the client's language. What she had not learned was who, exactly, owned the client. Meridian Crest was intentionally boring from the outside. Its website listed subsidiaries, operating divisions, and executive contacts. There were photographs of projects, warehouses, freight yards, and industrial developments. The chairman appeared occasionally. So did Tayo Balogun, Group Executive Director. Tayo's name appeared only where governance required it, usually buried in formal documents nobody browsing for event photographs would ever read. He had insisted on that arrangement years earlier, not to hide from women, to hide from everybody. After his mother died, condolence visitors had filled the family house for days. Some came with genuine grief. Some came with proposals, business proposals, marriage proposals through aunties, investment ideas, requests for school fees from people who had not spoken to the family in 10 years. One cousin arrived at the funeral and asked a trustee, before burial, whether the family intended to sell a logistics subsidiary. Tayo never forgot it. His mother had built Meridian Crest from a transport contracting business she inherited and then expanded. She was brilliant, stubborn and suspicious of people who confused ownership with work. She made Tayo study engineering before she allowed him anywhere near group operations. Shares can make you an owner, she told him when he was 23. They cannot make you useful. He had remembered that too. After her death, the controlling beneficial interest passed mostly to him through the family structure. Sei and a professional executive team ran much of the group. Tayo attended board reviews, voted on major matters, and worked on selected technical projects, but he resisted becoming the visible face of the fortune. He wanted one business whose success could not be explained by inheritance. Balogun Technical Services became that business. It was modest beside Meridian. It was also profitable, properly staffed and real. Zara knew about Balogun Technical. She knew Tayo's mother had been in business. She had met Sei twice, and assumed he was the successful uncle helping acquire a nephew. Tayo had never corrected that assumption. That was where his innocence ended. He had not said, "I am poor." He had not invented debt. He had not staged a test. But when Zara once asked why his family house in Ikoyi was so large, he had answered, "My mother did well." When she asked whether he owned property, he said, some. When she asked if he had investments, he said yes. Technically true, morally incomplete. Tayo knew it. For months he had told himself he would explain everything before the wedding. Then the wedding had come closer, and the explanation had kept moving away. was easier to resent Zara's obsession with appearances than to examine his own fear of what wealth did to intimacy. Amaka forced him to examine it without even trying. The community skills program opened on a humid Saturday morning with 12 sewing machines, 6 borrowed tables and 1 generator that Tayo disliked but had finally approved after its wiring was corrected. The first batch had 14 women, not 20. Amaka refused to accept more than the room could train properly. If we put 20 here, we are not teaching. We are storing people, the coordinator agreed. Tayo came early to test the load before the opening session. He had finished and was packing his meter when Amaka arrived, carrying a plastic tub filled with fabric scraps. "You are leaving?" she asked. "I have work. This is work. My paid work." She nodded solemnly. "Ah, so now we know what motivates you. Money. Terrible secret." She set down the tub. "You should stay for 10 minutes. For what?" "So the trainees know who to blame if the lights go off." He stayed 40. He watched Amaka teach the first exercise. She did not begin with fashion sketches or dreams of owning a label. She held up a badly sewn school uniform. "This is where money starts," she told the room. "Not with runway, with somebody needing something repaired before Monday." A few women laughed. Amaka pointed to the side seam. "If you can repair this neatly, you can earn. If you learn costing, you can keep what you earn. If you learn to tell a customer no when the deadline is impossible, you may even keep your sanity." More laughter. Tayo stood by the door and watched. There was nothing soft or accidental about what Amaka had built. She was kind, yes. People often stopped thinking after that word. They missed the discipline underneath it. She kept attendance. She chased receipts. She made trainees unpick bad stitches instead of praising effort that produced bad work. She did not rescue people from standards. She taught them to meet standards. Something shifted in Tayo that morning. Not love yet. Recognition. He liked the architecture of her mind. Later, when the class broke for lunch, Amaka found him outside drinking sachet water. "I thought you had paid work. I was trapped by education. Very serious condition." She took the second sachet he offered. They stood beneath the narrow shade of the building's overhang. The street was alive with buses, motorcycles, horns, and the smell of fried yam from a woman 2 shops away. Amaka bit the corner of the sachet and drank. "Tayo, can I ask you something that may be none of my business?" "You can ask. I can refuse. That is fair." She looked at him. "Were you happy with Zara?" He did not answer quickly. That was one thing Amaka had learned about him. Silence did not always mean avoidance. Sometimes he was actually thinking. "Yes," he said. "For a long time. What changed? Both of us. That is diplomatic. It is also true." She waited. He sighed. "She began to see my work as evidence that I was not going anywhere. And you?" "I began to see every question she asked about money as evidence that she did not care about me." Amaka frowned slightly. "Was that fair?" "No." The answer came so cleanly that she turned toward him. Tayo looked out at the road. She had reasons to worry about money. I knew some of them. I still treated the subject as if asking about it was an insult. "Why?" He rolled the empty sachet between his fingers. "Because money has made many conversations in my life dishonest." That sounds like rich man grammar. His eyes moved to her. For half a second, the joke landed too close. Amaka saw it. "What?" "Nothing. You made a face." "I have an expressive face." "No, you don't. Your face behaves like it signed an NDA." He laughed. The moment passed, but not for Tayo. That evening, he drove to Seiyi's house instead of home. His uncle was on the veranda, reading a report with glasses low on his nose. "You look troubled," Seiyi said. "You say that as if you are pleased." "I am pleased when trouble arrives before disaster. Sit." Tayo sat. For a while, neither man spoke. Seiyi turned a page. Finally, Tayo said, "How much does somebody need to know before they marry into this family?" Seiyi looked over the report. "Everything that can reasonably damage their life. That is broad. Marriage is broad. I am serious. So am I." Seiyi removed his glasses. "Are we discussing Zara?" No, that answer changed the older man's face. Ah, don't do that. I did nothing. You did an entire speech with one sound. Sei smiled. Then he became serious again. If this person does not know who you are, tell her before emotion makes the truth feel like betrayal. Tayo looked down. I have not lied. Sei's expression flattened. That sentence is normally spoken 5 minutes before somebody explains a lie. I did not lie to Zara either. No, you merely allowed her to believe the smallest possible version of every answer. Tayo said nothing. Sei leaned back. You think secrecy protects you from people who want your money. Sometimes it only prevents good people from making informed choices. That one stayed. Tayo drove home with it. 2 days later, Amaka called him because the community center generator was making a new noise. He sent a technician. 3 days after that, she sent him a photograph of a crooked shelf somebody had installed above the machines. Is this engineering? He replied. This is violence. She laughed alone in her workshop. A week later, they had coffee after a supplier meeting. No one called it a date. 2 weeks after that, Tayo realized he had begun saving small stories to tell her. A customer who insisted a machine was only making a small sound before presenting a motor that had nearly melted. A security guard at a site who kept chickens behind the generator house and named all of them after politicians. A 12-year-old boy who had watched Tayo repair a pump and then asked why adults always made simple things look expensive. Amaka saved stories too. A bride who lost weight twice and blamed the dress. A trainee who wrote every customer debt in a notebook titled People. What will you think I am, their bank? A woman who brought trousers for alteration and hid cash inside the pocket, then accused the workshop of theft, until Amaka made her search the second pocket herself. Their conversations became the easiest part of both their weeks. That was exactly when Amaka became uneasy. One Friday evening, after they had eaten roasted corn from a roadside cellar near the community center, she stopped beside Tayo's pickup. We are drifting. He looked at her. Into traffic? You know what I mean. He did. The humor left his face. Amaka crossed her arms. I said friendship. Yes. And this is beginning to feel like friendship wearing perfume. Tayo looked down, then laughed once under his breath. That is a very specific accusation. It is accurate, yes. The agreement made her more nervous. So you are right. Amaka waited. Tayo rubbed his thumb along the edge of his car key. There it was. No music, no rain. A bus conductor shouted at somebody 20 meters away. Amaka looked at Tayo and felt the ground of the whole situation change by 1 inch. Enough. I like you too, she said. Then immediately, that does not mean we should do anything. I know Zara is not the reason I like you. She is still my sister. I know, and you have been out of an engagement for 4 months. I know. You are saying, I know too much. I know. She pointed at him. That one was deliberate. Yes. Amaka wanted to laugh. She refused on principle. Then Tayo's face changed, not dramatically, just enough for her to see that something heavier had entered the conversation. There is something else, he said. Amaka's stomach tightened. What? Something I should have told Zara before we got as far as we did. The noise of the street seemed to move farther away. Amaka did not ask if he had another woman. She did not ask if he had a child. She simply said, Tell me now. Tayo shook his head. Not here. Her expression closed immediately. He saw it. Not because I want suspense. Because I need to show you enough context that I don't make the same mistake again. What mistake? Giving a technically true answer that leaves out the truth. That was not a comforting sentence. Amaka stepped back from the pickup. When? Tomorrow if you can. Where? My office. Your technical office? Yes, she studied him. Fine. That night Amaka slept badly. Her mind invented possibilities and rejected them one by one. Debt. A previous marriage. A criminal case. A child. A family obligation. Illness. By morning she was irritated with Tayo for making her imagination work overtime. At 11, she arrived at Balogun Technical Services. The office was exactly what she had seen before. A functional 2-story building behind a fenced yard. Technicians moving in and out. Spare parts stacked in one store, 2 company pickups outside. Nothing about it looked like the entrance to a secret kingdom. Tayo met her in the small conference room. There was a laptop on the table, 2 folders, and no coffee. Amaka looked at the table. You did not even provide refreshments for this confession? I thought you might throw them at me. That depends on the confession. He pulled out a chair. She did not sit. Tayo. He nodded. Then he began. My mother founded what became Meridian Crest Holdings. Amaka blinked. She knew the name. Everybody who worked around corporate events, property, or logistics in Lagos knew the name. Your mother worked there. Found it. Amaka stared at him. He opened one folder. My uncle Seyi is one of the group executives. A professional team runs most day-to-day operations. I sit on the family side of the board, and on some technical committees. She still had not sat down. Tayo. I own the controlling beneficial interest. Silence. Amaka's eyes moved from his face to the folder and back. Controlling what? Interest, shares, trusts, holding entities. The structure is not simple. How much? He hesitated. That hesitation answered too much. Amaka finally sat. How much, Tayo? He gave her a range rather than a theatrical number. Billions of dollars in private company equity and related assets, depending on valuation and debt. Most of it was not cash. Much of it could not simply be sold tomorrow without consequences. The distinction did not help. Amaka stared at him. You are a billionaire, yes? She gave a disbelieving laugh. No. Billionaire, as in Naira billionaire, no. Her laugh stopped. Tayo, I know no. You do not know what I am saying because I have not said it yet. He closed his mouth. She stood again. So all this time, your pickup, the workshop, the small office, those are real. I did not say they were fake. Balogun Technical is mine. I built it. It earns its own money. And Meridian? Also mine, in a different sense. Family-controlled, professionally managed. Amaka pressed both palms to the table. Her mind ran backward through every conversation. Money has made many conversations in my life dishonest. That sounds like rich man grammar. His face, she looked up. You almost told me that day. Yes, but you did not. No. And Zara? Tayo's jaw tightened. She knew my family had businesses. She did not know the scale. She was going to marry you. Yes. And she did not know. No. Amaka stepped away from the table. For the first time since he began, Tayo looked afraid. Not of losing money, of losing her respect. Amaka saw it. It did not soften her. Zara was wrong, she said. What she did to you was wrong. The way she spoke to you was ugly. I know. But you were going to marry my sister while keeping this from her? I intended to tell her. When? Before the wedding. When? He had no date. That was the answer. Amaka nodded slowly. Okay, the word frightened him more than shouting would have. Amaka, no. She picked up her bag. You wanted me to make an informed choice. I am making one. What choice? I need distance. His face tightened. Because of the money? She looked at him. No. Because you still think that is the question. Tayo did not follow her into the yard. That mattered. Amaka had expected him to. A part of her even wanted him to. Just so she could turn around and say something final enough to match the heat in her chest. Instead, he stayed inside the conference room while she crossed the yard alone. A technician near the gate greeted her. She answered automatically. Outside, Lagos had the bad manners to continue normally. A delivery bike squeezed between 2 cars. A bus stopped where it should not have stopped. A fruit seller rearranged oranges beneath an umbrella with one broken spoke. Amaka stood beside the road and opened her ride app. Her hands were steady. That annoyed her too. She wanted some visible proof that the ground had shifted. There was none. Her phone buzzed before the car arrived. Tayo. One message. I will give you the distance you asked for. I am sorry I waited this long. Amaka read it twice. She did not reply. At the workshop, she made 3 mistakes in 1 hour. Nothing serious. A figure entered in the wrong column. A customer's collection time written under the wrong name. A hem pinned half an inch too high before one of the staff noticed. Madam, the woman said carefully. Are you okay? Amaka unpinned the hem. I am distracted. Should I finish this one? Yes. She walked into the small back office and shut the door. Then she sat at her desk and finally let herself understand what had happened. Not the number. The structure around the number. Marriage to Tayo would not have meant simply discovering he could afford nicer holidays than she thought. It would have meant entering a family where major businesses, boards, trusts, employees, security concerns, and public attention could all touch ordinary decisions. Where would they live? Would people photograph them? Would her workshop suddenly become suspicious to every person who heard her husband's name? Would customers assume she no longer needed to be paid on time? Would family members begin bringing requests through her? What would children inherit, if they had children? What did privacy even mean at that level? These were not questions about greed. They were questions about life. Zara had deserved answers to them too. That thought complicated Amaka's anger. Her sister's behavior had been cruel. Tayo's omission did not excuse it, but wrong did not cancel wrong. Two people could hurt each other without creating one innocent saint between them. Amaka leaned back in her chair. That was the irritating thing about real people. They refused to stay in clean categories. 3 days passed. Tayo sent nothing. 5 days, nothing. Amaka began to understand that when he said he would give her distance, he meant it. On the 7th day, the community center coordinator called about a damaged extension board. Normally, Amaka would have called Balogun technical. She did not. She hired another electrician. The man fixed the extension board and nearly created another problem by suggesting they bypass a protective device, because, madam, it will still work. Amaka paid him for what he had done and refused the rest. Then, angry with herself, she called Balogun Technical's office the next morning. Not Tayo. The technician who came corrected the issue. No message followed from Tayo. That restraint unsettled her more than pressure would have. At the end of the 2nd week, Amaka met Mrs. Okoro for lunch. She had not planned to tell her mother anything. Then Mrs. Okoro asked why she had been quiet. Amaka said, "Tayo is very rich." Her mother paused with a spoon halfway to her mouth. How rich? Stupid rich. Mrs. Okoro put the spoon down. That is not a financial category. It is today. Amaka explained enough. Her mother listened without interrupting. When Amaka finished, Mrs. Okoro sat back. So Zara did not know? No, that is all you have. What do you want? Trumpet? Amaka almost smiled. Her mother folded her hands. Your sister behaved badly. I know. And this young man also behaved badly. I know. Then why do you look surprised that I can count 2 things at once? Amaka stared at the table. Mrs. Okoro's voice softened. Do you care for him? Yes. Do you trust him? Amaka took too long. Her mother nodded. That is the question, then. Not his money. It is not that simple. Of course not. If it were simple, you would not be buying me lunch to discuss it. Amaka looked up. I did not invite you to discuss it. You chose a restaurant where the soup costs too much. That is discussion behavior. Amaka laughed despite herself. The conversation did not solve anything. It did something better. It made the problem smaller than panic. Meanwhile, Tayo did what he always did when he could not repair something directly. He worked. At Balogun Technical, he spent 2 days on a warehouse ventilation problem. At Meridian Crest, he attended a quarterly review and argued with Sei over a proposed equipment procurement package. You are rejecting the supplier because of maintenance cost, Sei asked. I am rejecting the assumption that purchase price is the only price. You enjoy making simple things difficult. No. I enjoy noticing when simple things become expensive later. Sei looked at him for a moment. Are we still discussing equipment? Tayo did not smile. Sei sighed. The woman, she asked for distance. And you are giving it? Yes. Good. Tayo frowned. That was not very comforting. I am your uncle, not your praise singer. The meeting ended. As the others left, Sei stopped at the door. You did the right thing by telling her. Late. Yes. Tayo looked up. Sei shrugged. A late right thing is not an early right thing. Still better than a late wrong one. Then he left. Nearly a month after the disclosure, Amaka called Tayo. He answered on the 2nd ring. Hello. His voice was careful. She hated that she noticed. Are you free tomorrow evening? Yes. You answered too fast. I can pretend to check my calendar. Don't start. A pause. Then softer. Where? He asked. They met at a quiet restaurant not far from her workshop. No expensive private room. No driver waiting visibly outside. Tayo came alone in his pickup. Amaka arrived first. When he sat down, she noticed he looked tired. Good, a petty part of her thought. Then she disliked herself for it. I have questions, she said. I expected that. And I need answers that are not technically true. He nodded. So she asked. About Meridian. About his mother. About Seiyi. About what Tayo actually controlled and what he did not. About why he lived where he lived. About security. About whether he had debts. About whether anybody else could claim his assets. About why he had kept the information from Zara. Tayo answered each one. When he did not know an exact detail, he said so. When the answer was complicated, he did not pretend it was simple. The hardest question came last. If Zara had not ended the engagement that night, when would you have told her? Tayo stared at the condensation running down his glass. I don't know. Amaka's face changed. He continued before fear could make him improve the answer. I told myself before the wedding, but I had been telling myself that for months. Why? Because every time she treated my work like something shameful, I became more determined that she should love me without knowing. Amaka sat back, so it became a test. No. Then he stopped. His first instinct had been to reject the word. He reconsidered. Not a test I designed, he said. But maybe I turned it into one in my head. I kept waiting for her to prove something without telling her what was being measured. Amaka looked at him for a long time. That is not fair. I know. And if she had passed your invisible test? I would have told her and congratulated myself for being right. Exactly. He nodded. The waiter brought their food. Neither touched it immediately. Tayo said, I am sorry. Amaka's fingers tightened around her fork. Don't apologize to me for what you did to Zara. I am not. I need to apologize to her too. That surprised her. She may use it against you. That does not make it less true. Amaka looked down. For the first time since the reveal, trust moved. Not back into place, just moved, a few centimeters. They began seeing each other again after that. Slowly. Not as a couple. Tayo did not buy her things. That rule was never stated. It did not need to be. Then one afternoon he broke it accidentally. Amaka was complaining about a financing problem at the workshop. One of her older industrial machines had become unreliable. Repairing it again made little sense, but replacing it would consume cash she needed for fabric and wages. Tayo listened, then said, I can cover it. Amaka went quiet. He knew immediately. No, I know. No, let me finish. He leaned back. She placed both hands on the table between them. If you give me the money, every decision I make about you for the next 6 months will have that money sitting beside it. It doesn't have to. It will for me. Tayo nodded slowly. Fair. I need help choosing the machine. That you can give me. His face eased. Technical specifications? Yes. Supplier assessment? Yes. Financing comparison? I can do my own numbers. Of course. She narrowed her eyes. That sounded sarcastic. It was fear. Good. They spent the next Saturday comparing 3 models. Tayo hated 2. Amaka liked the cheapest. He made her calculate downtime, maintenance, and power consumption. By the end, the cheapest machine was no longer cheapest. She found a supplier willing to structure staged payments through the business. Tayo did not pay 1 naira. When the machine arrived, Amaka sent him a photograph. No caption, he replied. Good choice. She smiled at the phone, then put it away and returned to work. Across town, Zara was preparing for Meridian Crest's vendor briefing. The invitation arrived with a governance pack, site access instructions, and a list of people who might attend parts of the session. Zara skimmed it at first. Then one name stopped her. Tayo Balogun. She frowned. The document read, Family Representative, Beneficial Ownership Committee. For a second, she assumed coincidence. Balogun was not a rare surname. Tayo was not a rare first name. She scrolled farther. A second page referenced Mr. T. Balogun in connection with technical governance. Her pulse changed. She opened Meridian's website. Nothing obvious. She searched the group's formal public materials. There were references, sparse ones. A board appointment years earlier. A family trust note. A photograph from an industrial commissioning ceremony. The image was wide and slightly old, but the man standing beside Say was unmistakable. Tayo. Zara sat completely still. Her colleague walked past her desk, then reversed. "You okay?" Zara minimized the page. "Yes, you look like you saw your village people in Excel." I said, "I'm fine." Her colleague lifted both hands and moved on. Zara reopened the photograph. Tayo looked younger. He wore a hard hat, not a suit. Of course. Even in proof of wealth, he was wearing work clothes. Her fingers went cold. She clicked another document, then another. The shape appeared slowly. Not employee, not nephew living off a successful uncle owner, controlling family interest, Meridian Crest, the account her entire agency had been chasing for months. Zara stood so quickly, her chair rolled backward into the partition. People looked up. She grabbed her phone and walked to the stairwell. She called Tayo. The line rang once, twice, 3 times. He did not answer. She called again. This time the call ended after 1 ring. Zara stared at the screen. For the first time since the engagement ended, the thought that entered her mind was not that Tayo had failed her. It was much worse. What if she had never known him at all? The vendor briefing was held 3 days later in a conference building owned by one of Meridian Crest's subsidiaries. Zara arrived 40 minutes early. She told herself it was professionalism. It was not. She had spent the previous 72 hours discovering how much could be hidden in plain sight when a person had already decided what she was looking at. Tayo's name was not absent from Meridian's history. It was simply not advertised. There were regulatory notices, old project photographs, corporate references, a foundation report listing him as a trustee, a trade publication that described him as the family's technically minded controlling shareholder. Before moving on to the actual subject of the article, Zara had never searched properly. Why would she? She thought she knew him. That thought had become unbearable. At 9:55, agency representatives began taking their seats. Zara wore a ruby-red suit that morning, sharp at the shoulders, the kind of outfit she usually trusted when she needed to feel taller than uncertainty. Her managing director sat to her right. "Remember," he whispered, "this is briefing, not pitch. Listen more than you sell." "I know." "Good." A procurement manager entered with 2 operations executives. Then Tayo Balogun came in. Zara recognized him immediately. She had met him twice while engaged to Tayo, once at a family dinner, once at a funeral. Back then, she thought of him as Tayo's wealthy uncle. Say looked toward her. Recognition crossed his face. He gave one professional nod. Nothing more. Zara's stomach tightened. The meeting began. For 12 minutes, she almost convinced herself Tayo would not come. Then the door opened. He entered carrying a thin folder. No security line, no dramatic announcement, no billionaire costume. A cobalt jacket over a pale shirt, dark trousers, the same watch he had worn when he came to her mother's house. That ordinary watch offended her more than diamonds would have. One of the executives shifted his chair to make room. "Morning, Tayo." "Morning." The procurement manager paused. "For those who have not met him, Mr. Balogun is joining us for the technical and stakeholder risk portion. He represents the controlling family interest." The words were simple. They hit Zara like falling metal. Controlling family interest. Tayo's eyes reached her. He stopped for half a beat. He had not known her agency was shortlisted. She saw that immediately. That should have comforted her. It did not. He sat. The briefing continued. Zara heard almost everything and absorbed almost nothing for the first 5 minutes. Then training took over. A vendor asked about guest transport between 2 venues. Zara wrote down the answer. Another asked about security accreditation. She wrote that down too. Tayo asked a question about loading access and temporary power capacity. His voice was the same voice he had used while standing in her mother's kitchen, discussing a faulty socket. No richer, no grander. That was the unbearable part. The man had not transformed. Only her information had. When the briefing ended, agencies were asked to submit final proposals within 10 days. People began gathering laptops and exchanging cards. Zara's managing director leaned toward her. "That family representative knows you?" She kept her eyes on her notebook. "Yes." "How?" A lie presented itself. Family friend, old client, she rejected it. We were engaged. The man beside her went completely still. You were what? Engaged. To him? Yes. What happened? That is personal. He stared at her for another second, then lowered his voice. Does this create a problem for the account? I don't know. That answer scared both of them. Across the room, Tayo was already speaking quietly with the procurement manager. Zara watched him point toward the attendance list, then toward Seiyi. The procurement manager's expression changed. Seiyi glanced across the room at Zara, then back to Tayo. They spoke for less than a minute. Tayo closed his folder and walked out. He did not come to her. Zara's managing director swore under his breath. What did he just do? Zara knew before anyone told her. Tayo had removed himself. By afternoon, Meridian sent a formal note to the 4 shortlisted agencies. Because of a disclosed prior personal relationship between a representative of one bidder and a member of the controlling family, Tayo Balogun would take no part in vendor evaluation, scoring, selection or approval for the contract. The procurement panel would proceed under the existing process. Zara read the note 3 times. Her managing director stood behind her chair. This is good. She turned good? For us, clean process, documented recusal. She looked back at the email. He continued. Whatever happened between you two, do not contact him about this bid. Zara's spine stiffened. I know professional boundaries. Good, then we are clear. He walked away. Zara sat alone with the message. She had imagined several versions of what Tayo might do when she discovered the truth. Ignore her. Humiliate her. Make sure her agency lost. Use the contract to force a conversation. He had done the one thing that left her with nothing to fight. He stepped away. That evening she drove to Mrs. Okoro's house without calling. Her mother opened the door in a wrapper and old t-shirt. Why are you dressed like a court case? Mrs. Okoro asked. Zara walked past her. Mummy, did you know? Know what? Tayo, Mrs. Okoro closed the door. What about him? Meridian crest. Her mother's face gave her the answer. Not prior knowledge. Recognition of the subject. You know now, Zara said. Amaka told me some weeks ago. Zara stopped breathing for one beat. Amaka knew? Mrs. Okoro's eyes narrowed. That is the part you heard? How long? Sit down. How long, Mummy? I said sit. Zara remained standing. Mrs. Okoro sighed. Amaka found out after you ended the engagement. Tayo told her himself. The room tilted in a new direction. Told her himself. Yes. Why? Because they were becoming close. Zara laughed. It came out sharp. Of course. Do not start. Start what? My sister knew my ex-fiancé was a billionaire and nobody thought to mention it. Mrs. Okoro folded her arms. Mentioned it for what? Zara stared. So I had no right to know. You had a right to know before you married him. He should have told you. Amaka said the same thing. That answer slowed Zara. Her mother continued. But after you ended it, what exactly did you want Amaka to do? Call and say, Sister, the man you threw away is rich. Please reconsider. Zara flinched. Don't say threw away. You told your sister to take him. I was angry. Still your mouth. Zara turned away. Mrs. Okoro watched her daughter's shoulders. Then she asked, Why are you here? Zara looked back. I don't know. That was the first honest thing she had said all evening. Her mother's face softened, but not enough to rescue her. Then know before you call anybody. Zara left 20 minutes later. She sat in her car outside the house and searched through old photographs. Tayo at her birthday dinner. Tayo repairing a broken kitchen drawer while Zara laughed behind him. Tayo in a plain white shirt at a friend's wedding. Tayo holding the engagement ring box. She zoomed in on his face. Nothing there had been poor. Nothing there had been rich either. Just Tayo. The realization should have been simple. Instead, her mind did what frightened minds do. It began rewriting history to reduce the pain. Maybe he had deceived her deliberately. Maybe he wanted to humiliate her. Maybe Amaka had known earlier than she claimed. Maybe the whole family was now laughing at her. By midnight, anger had returned because anger was easier to sleep beside than regret. The next morning, she called Tayo from a number he did not recognize. He answered, Hello, Tayo. Silence, then. Zara, you blocked me. I did not block you. You did not answer. That is different. She gripped the phone. I need to speak to you. About the Meridian bid? No. If it is about the bid, I cannot discuss it. It is not. Another pause. Fine, he said. 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Yes, Tayo. We were engaged. And we are not now. The sentence landed cleanly. Zara closed her eyes. Please. That word changed him more than anger would have. He gave her a cafe location near his office and a time after work. Zara arrived early. Tayo arrived exactly on time. He did not hug her. He sat opposite her and waited. Zara had rehearsed the conversation. Every version sounded worse now. Finally she said, Why didn't you tell me? Tayo looked at her. I should have. She had prepared for defense. The admission knocked her off balance. That's it? No. But it is the first truth. You let me think you were struggling. I let you think I had less than I did. You watched me worry about our future. Yes, and you said nothing. Yes, her eyes burned. That was cruel. Tayo did not flinch. It became cruel. I can see that now. Zara looked away quickly. For a few seconds, neither spoke. Then she said, We both made mistakes. Tayo's expression changed. Not much, enough. Zara rushed on. We were under pressure. Wedding planning, work, family. I said things I didn't mean. You hid things you should have told me. We both. No. She stopped. Tayo leaned forward slightly. I will own what I did. Do not use that to make what you did smaller. Zara's mouth tightened. I apologized. You said we made a mistake. We did. I did not take your ring off. You lied by omission. Yes. I might never have left if I knew. There. The sentence came out before Zara could stop it. Tayo went completely still. She heard herself too late. I mean, no, he said quietly. That is exactly what you mean. Tayo, listen. If the only information that changes your decision is my net worth, then you are confirming why the relationship was already broken. That is unfair. Is it? You are acting as if money does not matter in marriage. It matters. Then stop judging me for caring about it. I am not judging you for caring about money. I am judging the way you treated me when you thought I had less. Zara's throat tightened. People need security. Yes, I grew up without it. I know. You don't know. I knew enough to understand the fear. I should have talked to you honestly, instead of resenting you for asking questions. That is my part. He paused. But your fear did not put those words in your mouth at your mother's table. Zara looked down. The cafe noise pressed in around them. Cups, chairs, a blender behind the counter. Tayo's voice softened. I am sorry I kept a material truth from you. Zara looked up. I mean that. You deserve to know what marriage to me would involve before you agreed to it. Hope entered her face too quickly. He saw it. But I am not asking to start again. Hope disappeared. Why? Tayo sat back. Because apology is not a rewind button. Zara stared at him. Then she asked the question she had been avoiding. Is it Amaka? Tayo did not answer at once. That was enough. Zara's face changed. You are with my sister. We are not in a relationship, but you want to be. That is between Amaka and me. Zara stood so quickly the table shook. Tayo, he remained seated. You cannot do this. Something tired entered his eyes. You said almost the same thing the night you told her to take me. Zara's lips parted. Tayo stood. I was never yours to give. Then he left her with the bill for the coffee he had not touched. Zara did not go home. She drove to Amaka's workshop. By the time she arrived, the front shutters were half down. One staff member was sweeping. Amaka stood near the cutting table, checking a delivery list. She looked up when Zara entered. One glance at her sister's face, and she put the list down. Everybody can go, Amaka told the staff member. The woman looked from one sister to the other. Madam, should I lock the back door? Yes. I'll lock the front. The woman collected her bag and left quickly. When the door shut, Zara said, How long? Amaka did not pretend not to understand. If you mean how long I've known about Meridian, about 2 months. Zara laughed once. 2 months? Yes. And you said nothing. To you? Who else? Amaka pulled out a chair and sat. She'd spent enough years being dragged into Zara's emotional weather. She would not stand just because Zara was standing. Tayo told me privately, he was my fiancé. Was. Stop saying that word like it erases everything. It does not erase anything. It describes what changed. Zara moved closer. You knew I left him because I thought he had no future. I knew you left him because you were ashamed of the future you imagined with him. That is the same thing. No, how? Because your behavior was the problem before the information changed. Zara stared at her. You are enjoying this. Amaka's face went still. That accusation hurt more than she expected. She stood slowly. Be careful. Don't threaten me. I am not threatening you. I am telling you to be careful with what you put on me. You think you won? Won what? The man, the money, the whole thing. Amaka's mouth opened, then closed. She walked to the machine nearest the window and rested one hand on it. This machine arrived last week. Zara frowned. What? I needed it. Mine was failing. Tayo offered to pay. Zara's expression sharpened. Amaka continued. I refused. That stopped her. I financed it through the business. Why are you telling me this? Because you have entered my workshop and decided I am standing here counting what I gained from your breakup. Amaka tapped the machine lightly. I built this place before I knew Tayo. I was paying rent before I knew he was rich. I was teaching women before I knew he owned Meridian. If tomorrow Tayo and I never speak again, this workshop will still open. Zara's face tightened. You think you are better than me because you don't care about money. I care about money every day. Amaka pointed toward a ledger on the table. I care when fabric prices rise. I care when a customer owes me. I care when wages are due. I care when a machine breaks. I care enough about money to know that it is not the same thing as human worth. Zara looked away. Amaka lowered her voice. You were afraid of being poor again. I understand that more than you think. No, you don't. You were younger. I was there too. You did not remember the worst of it. I remember Mummy watering stew so it would reach the next day. Zara's face flickered. I remember you pretending your school shoe was fashionable after the soles started opening. I remember Daddy sitting in the car for 1 hour because he didn't want to come inside and tell Mummy another contract had failed. Amaka stepped closer. We lived in the same house, Zara. You just decided fear belonged to you alone. The words landed. Zara's eyes filled, but she blinked hard. You don't know what it felt like to be the older one. No, I don't. That answer took some fight out of Zara. Amaka continued. And you don't know what it felt like to grow up behind you. Zara looked at her. What is that supposed to mean? It means if you achieved something. I was asked when I would catch up. If you bought something. I was told to learn from you. If you made a decision, people assumed you had thought more deeply because you were the serious one. I never asked them to do that. No, but you got comfortable with it. Zara looked down. The workshop was quiet now. Outside, a bus horn bleated twice. Somewhere in the building, water moved through a pipe with a hollow knock. Amaka said, The night you ended your engagement, you did the same thing again. You decided what Tayo was worth. Then you decided what I was for. You placed both of us where it was convenient for you. Zara's voice became small. I was angry, yes. And I regret it. Do you regret saying it? Or do you regret being wrong about his money? Zara looked up sharply. Amaka held her gaze. That was the question. Not whether Zara wanted Tayo back. Why? Zara opened her mouth, closed it. Amaka nodded once. You need to answer that for yourself before you ask anybody to forgive you. Zara picked up her handbag. You have changed. Amaka almost smiled. No, I have just stopped making myself smaller so you can recognize me. Zara left. The next morning, she went to work with swollen eyes and perfect makeup. Nobody commented. Her team was too busy. The final Meridian proposal was due in 2 days. Zara buried herself in it. And for the first time since discovering Tayo's identity, she did exactly what her managing director had told her. She did not contact him. She did not ask Sei for help. She did not try to turn a personal history into corporate leverage. She worked. There was dignity in that, though she did not yet think of it that way. The final pitch took place the following week. Tayo was not in the room. His absence was formally noted in the process documents because of the conflict. Zara presented the opening section herself. She was good, very good. She explained guest movement, supplier coordination, and contingency planning without drowning the room in decoration language. Her managing director handled commercial terms. Another team member covered digital registration. Then questions began. A procurement panelist asked what would happen if two major suppliers arrived within the same loading window. Zara answered. Another asked how they would manage an executive retreat location change with 48 hours notice. She answered that too. Then an operations executive asked about their staffing model across simultaneous events. The room shifted. Zara knew this weakness. They were too dependent on freelancers at peak periods. She answered honestly but carefully. The executive asked a follow-up. Then another. By the time the session ended, Zara knew they had not collapsed. She also knew they had not dominated. 2 weeks later, the result arrived. They lost. Not to the biggest competing agency. To a mid-sized firm with less glamorous branding and stronger operational depth. The feedback was detailed. Their creative concepts scored highly. Their account management presentation scored highly. Their operational staffing plan scored lower. Their cost structure was above the preferred range. Their contingency planning did not show enough permanent capacity for overlapping events. No reference to Zara's history with Tayo. No mysterious penalty. No revenge hidden inside procurement language. Her managing director called the team together. "We lost on execution confidence," he said. Nobody spoke. He turned to Zara. "Your presentation was strong," she nodded, "but we oversold polish and undersold delivery capacity." Zara looked at the feedback sheet. For months she had told other people not to decorate the wrong problem. Now the sentence had come home. The managing director continued. "We will fix it, and the promotion conversation is not dead, but I need you to spend the next quarter closer to operations." Zara's first reaction was humiliation. Operations, the less glamorous side. Supplier check-ins, staffing, load schedules, contingency lists. Work people noticed only when it failed. Then, against her will, she thought of Tayo in his workout shirt, grease on his sleeve. The man she had dismissed for being too close to the work. Her face burned. "I'll do it," she said. The managing director nodded. "Good. That was all. No one fired her. No one laughed. No billionaire ruined her career. She simply encountered a weakness and was required to learn from it. Real consequences were often less cinematic than revenge. They also lasted longer. For the next 6 weeks, Zara's mornings changed. She visited storage facilities. She met temporary staff coordinators. She watched crews assemble stages before sunrise. She learned why a beautiful event plan could fail, because one delivery truck had nowhere to reverse. She learned that the people she used to call, the setup boys, could look at a floor plan and see problems she missed completely. One morning, a supervisor handed her a reflective vest. Zara looked at it. "Must I?" "Yes, madam," she put it on. At 10 minutes past 6, under fluorescent loading bay lights, Zara found herself laughing. Not because anything was funny, because the universe had a cruel sense of symmetry. She had broken an engagement partly because a man came to dinner in work clothes. Now she was wearing safety gear over designer trousers, learning that competence was often dusty. She did not tell anyone about the irony. Some lessons do not need witnesses. At the same time, Amaka and Tayo remained suspended between friendship and something neither wanted to name too quickly. Trust returned in small tests that were not tests at all. Tayo told her when Meridian business would take him out of Lagos for several days. He did not disappear and explained later. When a family trustee called during dinner, he told Amaka who it was instead of saying, "work." When she asked a question he thought intrusive, he answered or said plainly that he needed time to answer properly. Amaka noticed the difference. She also noticed her own temptation to punish him longer than necessary because distance gave her power. That bothered her. One evening she said, "I think I have been keeping you on probation." Tayo looked up from the machine manual he was helping her read. "That sounds serious." It is. Do I get legal representation? No, then this process is flawed. She smiled despite herself, then became serious. You told me the truth, late, but before we became a couple. You answered what I asked. You stopped offering solutions I did not request. I am learning. I know. She rubbed her thumb along the edge of the manual. I don't want to use your mistake as a reason to keep you permanently below me. Tayo's expression softened. What are you saying? Amaka looked at him. I am saying I would like to try. Properly. He did not grin like a man who had won something. That was one reason she could say it. He simply asked, what does properly mean? Slowly fine, no surprise gifts painful, but fine. No people calling me madam because of you. I cannot control all Nigerians. You can try. He laughed. She continued. And if something in your life can materially affect mine, you tell me before I discover it in a conference document. His smile disappeared. Agreed. Your turn. Tayo thought for a moment. If you are angry with me, say the thing you are angry about. Do not make me guess and call it emotional intelligence. Amaka nodded. Fair. And do not assume every offer of help is an attempt to own you. She winced slightly. That one is harder. I know. Still fair. They sat there with the machine manual between them. No ring. No promise beyond what they could actually keep. It was the healthiest beginning either of them had ever had. Zara learned about the relationship from Amaka herself. Not from gossip. Not from their mother. Amaka asked her to meet at Mrs. Okoro's house one Sunday afternoon. Zara nearly refused. Then she went. They sat at the dining table where the engagement ring had fallen months earlier. The teacup was back in the cupboard. The ring itself had long since been returned to Tayo through Mrs. Okoro. Amaka did not circle the subject. Tayo and I have decided to date. Zara looked at her hands. When? Recently. Did you come to ask permission? No, the answer stung. Amaka let it. I came to tell you myself because you are my sister and I do not want you hearing it from somebody else. Zara looked up. That is generous. It is not generosity. It is clarity. Zara nodded slowly. Mrs. Okoro had deliberately gone to church committee meeting early, leaving them alone. For several seconds, neither sister spoke. Then Zara said, I said something terrible to you that night. Amaka waited. I made it sound as if he was something I could give you, and as if you were. She stopped. A place to send what you did not want. Amaka supplied. Zara swallowed. Yes. Amaka looked at her sister's face. This was not the Zara from the workshop, fighting for ownership of pain. Something had worn down around the edges. I am sorry, Zara said. Amaka did not say it was fine. It was not. Instead, she asked, what are you sorry for? Zara's eyes flashed with irritation. Then she caught herself. That was new, too. She looked toward the window. I am sorry I treated his work as if it made him less. I am sorry I dragged you into our breakup. I am sorry I accused you of enjoying what happened. She paused. And I am sorry that when I found out he was rich, my first thought was that I had made a mistake because of the money. Amaka said nothing. Zara gave a tired laugh. You want to know the worst part? What? If he had been exactly what I thought he was, a man with a small engineering company and an ordinary future, I would have spent months telling myself I had done the sensible thing. Her voice cracked slightly. That is the part I don't know how to defend. Amaka's face softened. Maybe stop defending it. Zara looked at her. There it was. The door nobody had been able to open for her, because she kept leaning against it from the other side. Maybe stop defending it. Zara breathed out. I don't know if I can watch you with him and be normal immediately. I am not asking you to. I may need distance. Take it. Zara nodded. Then Amaka added, but distance cannot become punishment. I know, and you cannot tell people I stole him. Zara's mouth tightened. I know, and if you insult him in front of me, Amaka, I am setting terms. I can hear that. For the first time, a real smile touched Zara's mouth. You have become very bossy. Amaka leaned back. I own a workshop. Please respect management. Zara laughed. It was small. It was enough for that day. Distance did not look dramatic. That was how Zara learned it could be healthy. For a while she skipped Sunday lunch, if she knew Tayo might come. She muted Amaka's social media posts, not because there were many pictures of him, but because she did not trust the version of herself that appeared when one surfaced unexpectedly. Amaka did not chase her. Tayo did not either. Mrs. Okoro complained exactly twice. My daughters now need booking appointments to eat rice in my house. Then she stopped complaining and let time do its work. Zara's work changed more quickly. The quarter she spent closer to operations became the most useful professional training she had received in years. She learned to ask the warehouse manager what he thought before finalizing floor plans. She learned to budget for people, not just materials. She learned that a late supplier did not become early because somebody wrote urgent in capital letters on WhatsApp. She learned why some freelancers refused agencies that paid 60 days late, and then wondered why their best crews were never available. Most uncomfortable of all, she learned how often she had confused visible polish with value. One afternoon, she visited a venue where a junior technician was crawling beneath a temporary platform to check a cable route. A client representative frowned. "Why can't they finish this before we arrive? It looks messy." Months earlier, Zara might have agreed. This time, she said, "Because if he does not check it now, the neat stage you want may have no power later." The representative shrugged and walked away. Zara watched the technician work. She thought of Tayo. Then she got on with her job. That was progress too. Not every lesson needed to become a confession. Amaka and Tayo's relationship grew in the gaps between ordinary responsibilities. He met her after late classes sometimes. She visited Balogun Technical and learned which technicians could be trusted to tell Tayo he was wrong. She liked those ones most. Once, when a site problem kept him out past midnight, he sent her a message at 11:20. "Still here. Pump alignment issue. I will call tomorrow instead of pretending I can talk properly tonight." Amaka smiled when she read it. 6 months earlier, she might have thought such a message unromantic. Now she understood what it was. Information before anxiety, respect before explanation, she replied. "Good, sleep when you finish, and don't send me a photograph of machinery as proof." He sent one immediately. She called him foolish and went to bed. Tayo introduced her properly to Sei a few weeks later. Not at a gala, at Sei's house over lunch. The older man looked at Amaka for almost 3 seconds too long when they met. Amaka noticed. "You are inspecting me," she said. Tayo nearly choked on his water. Sei's eyebrows lifted. "I was greeting you." That greeting had due diligence inside it. Sei looked at Tayo. "She talks to you like this? Worse. Good." Lunch improved after that. Sei explained nothing about family wealth unless Amaka asked. When she did ask, he answered without treating her as greedy. She wanted to know what Tayo's board responsibilities meant in practical terms. How often he could be pulled into decisions, whether family disputes could affect where they lived, what privacy risks existed, whether his ownership created obligations to relatives who worked in the group. Sei listened, then said, "These are better questions than most people ask." "What do most people ask? How many houses?" Amaka glanced at Tayo. "I will ask that later," Sei laughed. On the drive home, Tayo said, "You frightened him. Good, you enjoy that word too much. He needed to know I also performed due diligence." Tayo smiled. Then Amaka became serious. "I am glad I met him. Why? Because this is the part you kept invisible before. Not money itself, structure, people, expectations." Tayo nodded. "I know." She looked out the window, "And now I can decide whether I can live with it." He did not say, "Of course you can." He said, "Yes." That was the right answer. At the workshop, Amaka's new machine increased output enough that she could take on school uniform work without delaying private customers. She added one more paid worker from the first training batch. The community program asked her to help design its next course. This time she included business basics from the start. "Skill can bring money in," she told the new trainees. "But if you don't price properly, keep records and separate business cash from your own spending, you can work every day and still be broke." One woman raised her hand. What if family keeps borrowing from the business? Half the room laughed. Amaka did not. Then family must learn that business money has a job. Another woman said, easy to say. Yes, Amaka replied. Very easy. Hard to do. That is why we practice the sentence before you need it. The room quieted. Amaka wrote on the board, I can help with this amount. The rest is for the business. Say it without insulting anybody, she said, and without apologizing for existing. The class repeated it. A few laughed from discomfort. Amaka let them. Education was sometimes just rehearsal for a difficult Tuesday. Nearly 9 months after the engagement ended, Zara called Tayo. This time she used her own number, he answered. Hello, Zara. I want to ask for 20 minutes. There was a pause. Not Meridian, not Amaka, mostly me. That was unusual enough that he agreed. They met at the same cafe as before. Zara arrived wearing navy trousers and a plain white shirt. No armor color red. Tayo noticed but said nothing. She sat. I owe you a better apology. You don't owe me a performance. I know. He waited. Zara folded her hands on the table. When we met last time, I wanted 2 things at once. I wanted you to admit you hurt me, and I wanted your admission to cancel what I did. Tayo said nothing. I was angry that you kept your wealth from me. I am still angry when I think about it. You have a right to be, but I used that anger to avoid something else. She looked directly at him. I did not respect the life I thought you had. Tayo's face changed slightly. Zara continued before courage became too expensive. If you had been exactly who I believed you were, a good engineer with a small company, no hidden fortune, I would still have treated you badly that night. And I would have called it being practical. The cafe was quieter than the first time they met there. A ceiling fan turned slowly overhead. Tayo looked down at his hands. Then he said, Thank you for saying it. I am not asking you to forgive me. I already have, mostly. That surprised her. Mostly? I am still human. A small smile passed between them. Zara's eyes became wet. She looked away. And I need to say this too, Tayo said. She faced him again. I made your fear worse. You asked real questions about security and future plans. Instead of answering honestly, I interpreted some of them as proof that you were becoming materialistic. You were not completely wrong. That does not make my method right. Zara let out a slow breath. We were very bad at talking about money, yes, and somehow we nearly got married. That part frightens me in retrospect. She laughed, genuinely this time. Then her face settled. Take care of Amaka. Tayo's expression sharpened. Zara raised one hand, wrong wording. Sorry. He waited. Respect Amaka, she corrected. She will take care of herself. Tayo smiled. That, I can promise. They left separately. Nothing restarted, nothing needed to. Some apologies are successful because they rebuild a relationship. Others are successful because they finally allow one to end cleanly. Months passed. Zara earned the promotion she had wanted, though not when she expected. Her managing director moved her into a role that combined account leadership with delivery oversight. When he told her, he said, You used to enter operations meetings like you were visiting another country. Zara grimaced. Was it that obvious? Yes, and now? Now you annoy everybody equally. Much better. She laughed. Her first act in the new role was not glamorous. She revised freelancer payment timelines. 2 coordinators thanked her. That felt better than a title on LinkedIn. At home, the sisters repaired slowly. Not with one hug, not with a dramatic family speech, with repetition. Zara came to the workshop one afternoon and sat quietly while Amaka finished a customer fitting. She did not offer business advice. Amaka noticed. Another week, Amaka called Zara to ask about event registration software for the community program. She did not preface the request with a reminder that she could manage alone. Zara noticed. They began sending each other stupid voice notes again, then recipes, then complaints about Mrs. Okoro's habit of forwarding health messages from WhatsApp groups without checking whether any doctor had ever said the thing. Normality returned in pieces. One Saturday, Amaka's workshop hosted the final assessment for the 2nd training batch. The room was hot despite the fans. Fabric scraps filled 2 baskets. Someone had brought meat pies. Somebody else forgot cups. Tayo arrived late from a site visit wearing his cobalt work shirt. Zara was already there. For 1 second, the old image returned. Red dress, ring on table, grease on sleeve. Then it passed. Zara looked at the faint stain near Tayo's cuff. "You know washing powder exists?" she asked. Tayo looked down. "This shirt was clean this morning." Convenient story. Amaka, carrying a box of certificates, stopped between them. "Please, if both of you start behaving strange, I will send you outside." Zara lifted her hands. "I said only washing powder." Tayo nodded toward the box. "Need help? I have hands, I can see them. Then use your eyes quietly." Zara laughed. Tayo took half the box anyway. Amaka allowed it. That was growth, too. After the assessment, families crowded the room. Trainees took photographs with their certificates. One woman cried because she had completed the course after missing 2 weeks to care for a sick child. Another had already begun earning from alterations in her neighborhood. Amaka stood near the doorway watching them. Tayo came beside her. "You did well," he said. "We did well." He glanced at her. "The royal we?" "No, the women, the coordinator, the trainers, your technical people, everybody. I was trying to compliment you. I know. Very difficult woman. You knew before dating me." "That is true. Full disclosure." She looked at him. He realized what he had said and winced. Amaka burst out laughing. "Too soon?" he asked. "Maybe forever." He laughed too. Later, after everyone left, the workshop became quiet. Zara had gone to take Mrs. Okoro home. The coordinator carried away the remaining food. The trainees took most of the fabric scraps for practice. Amaka sat at her desk, closing the day's records. Tayo stacked plastic chairs against the wall. He had removed his jacket hours earlier. His sleeves were rolled to the elbows. No convoy waited outside, no photographer knew where he was. On paper, Tayo Balogun controlled a fortune large enough to make strangers change their voices around him. Private valuations placed his beneficial holdings at a scale that made the word billionaire almost useless. In the small corporate circle that knew the full structure, he was spoken of as the richest private individual most of them would ever sit across a table from. Inside Amaka's workshop, none of that helped him stack chairs faster. She looked up from the ledger. "You missed one." Tayo turned. A chair stood near the pressing table. "I was leaving it for you. Why?" "Equality. Carry the chair." He carried the chair. Amaka smiled and returned to her figures. When she finished, she locked the cash drawer and checked the back door. Tayo waited near the entrance. She reached into her bag and removed a key. He looked at it. "What is that?" "Side door key." "I can identify a key. You asked what it is. What are you doing with it?" She held it out. Tayo did not take it immediately. Amaka watched him understand. Months earlier, money had sat between them like a locked room. Then truth had opened the door and nearly pushed them apart anyway. This was different. Not access bought by wealth, access given by trust. Tayo took the key. "No surprise entry," Amaka said, obviously. "No bringing technicians at 7 in the morning because you suddenly remembered a socket. I have never done that. I am preventing future foolishness." He closed his fingers around the key. "Understood." She switched off the lights. The workshop fell dark except for the security light near the door. For a moment they stood there together, surrounded by machines Amaka owned, shelves she had paid for, work she had built before Tayo's fortune entered the story and would still own regardless of what happened next. Then they stepped outside. Tayo locked the side door with the new key and handed it back. Amaka frowned. "It is yours, I know." "Then why are you giving it back? Practice, for what?" He placed it in her palm, remembering that access can be given without becoming ownership. Amaka looked at him. That answer was almost too perfect. So she ruined it. "You rehearsed that in your head." "Maybe. I knew it." He laughed. She gave him the key again. This time he kept it. If there was one part of the whole mess worth holding on to, it was not the shock of discovering that the man Zara had called poor possessed more money than she could imagine. Money made the reversal dramatic. It did not make the lesson true. The harder question was simpler. If Tayo had remained only what Zara believed him to be, a competent engineer with a small company, Grease on his sleeve and no secret fortune, would he have deserved less respect? The answer had nothing to do with billions, and Tayo had his own answer to carry. Privacy could protect a person from people who wanted access to his wealth, but privacy could not become an excuse to deny a future spouse the information needed to choose a life honestly. Zara learned to stop treating fear as authority. Tayo learned to stop treating secrecy as safety. Amaka learned that independence did not require refusing every hand offered to her. It required knowing when the hand was helping, when it was controlling, and having the courage to say which was which. The next morning, Tayo arrived at the workshop before Amaka. He used the side door key. Then he sat on the steps outside instead of going in. When Amaka arrived, she found him there with 2 cups of tea. She looked at the locked door behind him. "You have a key." "I know. So why are you sitting outside?" Tayo handed her 1 cup. "Because having access is not the same thing as having permission." Amaka stared at him for a second. Then she unlocked the door herself. "Come inside, engineer." He followed her in.